Hi, I just wanted to talk through this interactive design project, and I apologize for it being late. I think I kind of overthought this a little bit. But what I wanted to do when I saw the assignment, as well as what I was working on in my own personal work life, is I thought I'd bring the two together. So I teach a class as well as help students who are planning on becoming secondary English teachers. I do a lot of mentorship with them. I used to teach high school, and I wanted to put together a web quest. Now, when I was back doing my master's in education, web quests were really big, and then they kind of seemed to fall off the framework of most education classes, and I haven't really heard that much about them until relatively recently. They seem to have put in a reappearance, especially since technology has improved to the point that it makes it even more accessible to students to have a web quest. Now, a web quest, for those who are unaware, although is that you use the internet, usually have um, an assignment where students go to different places and different places on the internet, and they answer questions, and they really use the internet as their quest. They're questing for something. When I was a high school teacher, I used it a lot with Shakespeare and going around and finding different information about Shakespeare and things like that. For this assignment, how this relates is I wanted to put together a web quest specifically to help my students that are going to be preparing to become secondary English teachers on writing and what North Carolina has in terms of the core curriculum goals about writing, as well as to have them do a web quest on then creating a web quest for their own students. And so I really found that I focused most of my time on actually creating this web quest and in terms of introducing myself, and less time on making sure I turn this assignment on time. So I used a blog because I thought that was easier, and from an interactive design, as well as from navigation and looking at user design that we've been talking about. I really wanted to make sure that everything linked together, that there was standard navigation on all pages, that each step would link and they could go back to previous steps. So here's the introduction. If I click on step one, obviously it takes me there, but they can also click here to step two, and I wanted to include those links in it as well, so I could click step two there. And that didn't work, so there we go. We've got an issue on my linkage that I've got to go back and fix when sharing with the students. So step two, we've got the North Carolina standards, and I can click on that, so links in that way as well. I think in some ways this what I've created does show some of the elements that we've been talking about and studying in terms of connecting steps together, in terms of having navigation in one area, in terms of things looking readable, using bullet points, using tables, using things like that that are make it much more easier to read and access information. There are definitely some pages of this that are way too text dense. Like this WebQuest introduction, as I scroll through, I'm like, nobody's going to read that. Way too text dense. The other thing that I realized that I didn't do that I should have done, and I need to go back and add in, is images. This entire web quest is all text and links to other sites. I don't have a single image on it, and so that is definitely something from an interactive design standpoint I should have added in. But this is what I created, and I actually have shared with my students, and several of them have completed them, have completed this web quest, and then created their own web quest that they can then use when they start their student teaching next fall, as well as some that are still a few semesters out from student teaching but wanted an idea of ways to use the internet in fun ways and create their own lesson plans off of it. So thanks for this opportunity to use something that I was already using in my classes, as well as to think about it from an interactive design perspective.